on the bottom left, there's like a start video or some shit.
There
There you go. Fuck yeah. What's up, Brian?
What's up, man? What's going on?
Figuring this stuff out.
The Zoom thing or what?
No, well, so I just got this microphone here.
Very studio-ish.
It's fucking dope too, cause it's just since Mac's USB-C, it just connects straight to my Mac, so I don't have to like have an extra like device the way I used to with the old podcast. I can still do it if I want to, so it has like the plug option if I wanted to do that. But like for something like the Zoom thing, it's like the audio's clear and it's just convenient. It just works well. And then like I can plug my earphones into the mic itself, so then I can hear you and myself with like no extra stuff. It's pretty convenient.
Yeah, I mean it looks pretty dope. And then it sounds like you actually sound really clear.
Really clear? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna tell you, we can just start kicking this off. 'Cause I know you do like another podcast is it with like friends or like families or cousins or?
Yeah, I mean it's not very frequent. It's every now and again. And this season we're kind of slow with it, especially with like them having their kids and all that. Right. But it was mostly for like our fantasy football or
that's
our
what
fantasy
it was.
football league.
Okay, I couldn't remember if it was fantasy football or base. I couldn't remember what it was for. I just remember you had mentioned it, and I was thinking, I'm like, in the case that you guys were consistent, like you could get one of these mics. It's $250 if you do it if you do it a bunch. I think it'd be worth it. Like I do podcasts kind of frequently, so it's a little bit different. So like I have it, but
yeah, for $250 it ain't that bad, and especially if you're doing it at least like once a week, it's kind of you get your money's worth.
Yeah, right. Cool, man. Well, I'm glad. I was telling Brian last week. I was like, man, like this whole Zoom thing. It's like it's not new technology because he brought up like Skype and like different things, and it's like this isn't new technology, but it's interesting. Using it for podcasting, it's like it's accessible. Like I kind of wish I would have started sooner. Like using Zoom and or even Skype, any recordable like internet like video call type app. But like it's like but now at this point it's like, okay, I'm not gonna beat myself, over like fucking something that's already done, and it's like just start doing it now. So that's why I'm trying to do as many as I can, and then see where it goes for this year. At least when I have time.
Dude, the whole Teams thing is kind of like. It's kind of sort of wild to me just because it's like you have Windows Teams that started up and like it boomed up this entire year. As soon as COVID hit, Windows Teams became like the biggest thing in the world, and for every company to start using it now.
Right.
It gets me thinking. It's like, okay, well, if for our company at a certain point we have, okay, we're going to do a team Zoom meeting at 9 a.m. So we all get on and then we have our powwow, we talk our meeting, get our stuff done. What do we do? What do we have to do? And then we move on to the next topic, or we either get off and start doing our work. But it just makes me think, it's like, what's the point of having an office now?
Yeah, like, no, you're not wrong. Especially if you have like, let's say a conventional job, and then now it's like, yeah, like and this is, I mean, even NFL team, even professional leagues, football, baseball, basketball, like they're all doing this too. During team meetings via Zoom or via video chat.
The weird part is I don't know how I guess up to date you've been keeping up with like the NFL playoffs, but like when they did the Cleveland Browns last week, before they won their game, they couldn't go to the field because of COVID. So what the coach did was, because since he had COVID, he started up the Zoom meeting call and he picked up all his offensive players or his defensive players, and then he would draw up the playbook, and every team player had to draw their route or their step back and be like, okay, step back, progression 1 here, progression 2. And they would have to, like, I guess, answer it in a cue card.
Right. Okay. So I had heard something, but I just didn't know that detail. Because they showed the example. They gave, like, I guess on one side, it was like the name of the play. And I just didn't know what they meant. Because I started watching it, like, I had started watching the interview maybe like halfway through, so I just saw where he posted it up, and then he turned it and showed the play, but I didn't know what it was for. I'm like, okay, I thought they were just talking about plays in general, but that's smart. That's smart on the coach to do that.
it was pretty cool too, because when you saw I guess the video, the recording of it, it's like the main screen in the background was the coach, and then at the bottom was all the players. So he would go up, call the play, flip it around, and then every individual player would go up and I guess and pretty much play their role of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's kind of like a neat little, like a flashcard test.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's testing every individual on, and you can't cheat. You're like, hey, bro, like, what's the,
Oh yeah, like let me look
everybody
over.
can hear. Yeah. Yeah. You're not like together with somebody like, oh, man, I can't. They're professional, so I wouldn't expect any less. I mean, they are getting paid to literally just know their routes, know wherever they're going, or
Or
their
their
blocks.
craft.
Right. That's funny. For today, I wanted to get into investing just because even at work, I talked to different people and they brought up some have just started 8 months ago, some have been doing it for way longer, and some aren't doing it at all. And what I'm seeing and this is in general, this is even without the coworkers that I have now, but other coworkers that I've met in the past, is like the main thing is fear is what's keeping them from just investing. Even I even argue, even if you use Acorns or Robinhood, what app do you use, or what do you use for investing?
I like to stick to Robinhood mainly on I guess when we started off at work, they gave us our option to do it with I don't want to say it's Zelle. It's the one with the infidelity.
Okay.
Yeah, or Fidelity. I apologize.
Fidelity, yeah, not infidel.
Yeah,
Right,
Fidelity.
Fidelity. Yeah, it's all right.
Um,
That sounds right. Okay, continue.
yeah, so they gave us that option, and then when in speaking to them, I asked the gentleman, and I was like, "Okay, so how does it work?" And it's like, "Well, you invest within us, and then we have our team members that invest throughout and all that." And then I guess my downplay of it, it's like I feel like I don't have control of what I want to invest in or where I want to invest in, or
Okay.
I can't pick my specific
Yeah,
companies
right.
or or the venues I want to go into. So I declined that option and I started doing it on Robinhood because I get to pick which companies I specifically want to invest in. And then it's so much more easier. It's on my phone. It comes out with widgets now with the iPhone, so where it's like as soon as I wake up, there's a little widget at the bottom now that tells me if I'm green or red every day. So
Interesting.
I enjoy Robinhood just because of the practicality of it. It's very simple to use. Um, it's pretty quick in most cases. I've had some issues with it, but that's more on the option trading side when you
Okay.
buy and sell options.
Okay.
But,
You've done that. You've already bought and sold. You already bought and sold options. Okay.
yeah, I've gotten into three different options. Oh, let me rephrase. I got into two options, but failed on to purchase one.
Okay.
But I've gotten better at it because so I guess when I did my first option, I did it back when Microsoft was purchasing TikTok.
Mm.
And the way options work is you buy a contract, you pay a percentage of it for 100 shares, and you either you're gonna go for either 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, depending on your time distance. It the percentage of it is what you're gonna buy into, and from there it'll give you your timeline, and it'll tell you you're going up, you're going down, when should you buy, when should you sell, or if you hit your limit where you're done after a certain time, it's you didn't make any money and your option's gone. But so the first time I did my first options, I flopped. I didn't get anything of it, but I did get a lot of learning experience from it, which caused me to move into the second option, which I did with Oracle when Oracle was purchasing TikTok. So
Mm.
because we were getting all these notifications from like the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post every time, for example, especially with Trump and um, his nonstop tweeting or any kind of thing like that, where it would be a new headline. The
Right.
headlines for the post and everything would come up, and especially during that time period where they were trying to buy TikTok and make it a U.S. owned company. So I would, as soon as I heard something, I would try and go into that option and try and give me a time of a 2 week or three week period. And from the one with Oracle, I sold it halfway through my set time. So I had it bought for 2 months. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
2 months, 2 weeks, and I sold halfway through it because with the one from Microsoft, I held it on way too long and I didn't make any money.
Okay.
So I messed up on that one. And as soon as it was one of those days where a headline came out that Oracle was already on the final stages of purchasing TikTok, and I took that as a note. It skyrocketed a little bit. I told myself, look, this if I come out positive, I'm considering that a win. I'm not going to hold on to it any longer. And I sold it. It did go up a little bit higher, but at the end of the day, within those 2 weeks, it went back down.
Okay.
So I would have been stuck with my hand with an empty bag in a sense. Like I wouldn't have won anything.
Right.
So I sold it with that. My third one was with Pfizer, and this is where I was really upset.
Yeah, I've been paying attention. You can tell yours. Go ahead.
So I was really upset with Pfizer because it was one of those nights I was playing Call of Duty, and it was like 1 in the morning. I get the notification from the Wall Street Journal saying that Pfizer got approved from UK testing. It was when they got approved from the UK testing, and I was like, dang it, let me go now. And I tried getting it because I was like, best case scenario, it's 100 shares that I'm gonna get. If it goes up even $2, that's 200 in a night that I'm gonna get no matter what.
Right.
And I tried going. I bought it overnight. And the issue is that when you usually buy them overnight, it's at a set price. And if it's not at that set price or lower by the morning, it doesn't go through. So if it was like, I bought it at, the share was like maybe at $20. So at the percentage that I'm going to get for the 100 shares, it's probably going to be somewhere like around $200 that you're going to pay for it. And if the share price, by the time you wake up, it went from 20, and let's say it skyrocketed to 21, you're not going to get it back at 20 because the market already opened at a certain price.
Right.
And you have to
that market.
And you have to now buy it at that price.
Which makes sense. Yeah. I always account for that, especially if I'm ordering on a weekend until Monday. There's usually a big discrepancy from Friday closing to Monday. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
And that's where I was upset because it went up about like $3.50, $4 that it went up per share for the share. So my option didn't get to go through because it did skyrocket the next morning. And I was just upset that I was like, I knew this, and it just so happened that within the next couple of days it went back down. And I was only going to buy it for the week because I guess from buying previous options, I know this thing is only going to last a day at best, day and a half. So I was going to go in and get out, but the option didn't get to go through. And sure enough, it went up and then it went back down by the next week. So I was like, well, I knew it. I knew what I had to do. Next time I just got to be more.
Just be on that. Like, just trust your gut. It seems like at least in that instance, like you had just enough gut feeling where it's like, okay, yes, but then you kind of, well, let me test, test a little further and see if.
But that's the thing. It took me. By this third option, I already know where I'm going or where I want to. And it did take me that first losing my first option or not making any profit and just wasting my investment to know how the way that works. So I mean, if you're gonna if your colleagues are afraid, you're gonna lose money, but you're not gonna learn anything. So you have to jump in because you're never going to gain money if you don't. You're not going to gain money if you don't spend money.
It and it goes for anything we've talked about, whether it's me, you, and Brian, whether it's me and you, whether it's me and Brian, or just in general on this podcast. It's like if you're not doing something, like you're not in. There's no gain or loss. There's no type of movement going on.
And then plus, what are we doing now? We're just at home.
Yeah, right.
What are you gonna do? It's better to have your money make you money than.
Well, that's probably my main example, because even like I have my main fund is in the index, and I'm like, even then, like top 500 companies, like right now, like if you go to Target, like more than likely, like even though let's just say let's say it's pennies, right? But like that's still money I'm technically gaining, or something. It's technically money I'm gaining for. Without being there. Like I don't work at Target. I don't have any like personal okay, that wrongly let me say it better. I have stake in it, but I'm not there working, or I'm not there in person. I have no connection with a manager or the CEO,
Yeah.
Anybody, the founder, anything like that. It's like, I'm here at this moment, like, talking with you on Zoom. It's like we're talking, doing this, and then, the market, and the people that are shopping, they're out there,
Yeah.
using their money, and then we get a piece of that.
Yeah, because it's nice because it's like with Tesla, I have nothing to do with Tesla. I got nothing to work with it. But
Okay, yes, keep continuing. I want to get into Tesla because I feel like that's probably been your bread and butter so far of like since you started investing.
yeah,
But
well, I mean, like
sorry,
Tesla, JP, because I got stock in Tesla, JP Morgan, Prudential, Valero. I've gone into other fields that I feel like, yeah, I don't work with them. Yeah, I don't. It's not like I'm there 8 to 5
right.
or even buying. Like I'm not out there buying a Tesla car, coming out and charging it at home.
Yeah.
But I enjoy seeing the company thrive, and the more the company thrives, it helps me. It
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
me
you're benefiting.
makes me thrive,
Yep, 100%.
and it's nice to watch. Yeah, there's your days where like you you lose money, but then there are
Mhm.
also your days like if you
When,
think about it, let's say you're in the market, you see your portfolio, and today was such a green day that you made 260. You made 260 on the market, and
mhm.
it's like that's $260 that you just literally sat down for.
Yeah,
Like
right. You literally, and
like what
let's
did you
say,
do?
right. Let's say you didn't even like. Let's say you didn't have. Let's say you just turn on your phone, you see the widget, and then you put your phone back down. And you go out, and let's say you practice jujitsu as well. So you see your widget. Okay, cool. You put your phone down, go practice jujitsu, and you like you said, you just made let's say $260. Like
Yeah.
just there
I mean, think
going.
about it. Like that's if you consider it like 8 hours, I mean you're making over $30 an hour.
Yeah,
You're making over 30, and just imagine having that kind of a job. It's a nice job when you make good money when you have like that outlet. And then especially if you're like you work your 8 to 5, but then you're also like in a sense double dipping
hmm
because now it's like you're
it
working and then your other half is working too.
absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. And see, this is the conversation I wanted to have about this stuff because it's like I get giddy about this stuff, and it's just
Exactly.
because like it's for me the money in the stock market is a game. It's like you're saying, you have your options, you're trading, you're trying to see when to pull your money, when to put more money in. But it's like, but for me on my end, it's like it's a game. It's just like it's that easy. Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
you use like I use Vanguard as my main account, and I use Acorns as like it's just my. It's not. It's not an emergency fund. It's not a throwaway fund. But I put it in there and maximize like because you can choose like how volatile you want to be with like your
Your
how
spending
like
amount.
how they use their money, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like well just do the max amount because I'm putting a smaller percentage of what I'm putting in my bigger accounts, but it's like okay, yeah, go play,
Mm-hmm.
and it's to me it's right. And okay, what's your opinion? And I guess your opinion on the craziness of like what 2020 did for the stock market, because like it's crazy how we've been just in general like it's just been going up, and it's like it's weird. Freaking
And yeah, no, it is. And speaking with Brian too, um, he mentions that there might be that it's kind of a bubble in a sense to where it's eventually going to pop again.
right.
And the funny thing was, it's like I don't know if you remember our old conversations back in the day when we were
Mhm.
always all giddy and excited because the market's going to crash, the market's going to crash.
Well, I'm still waiting for it, dude. I feel like I'm still in
Well,
that
that's the
same like
thing.
I haven't forgotten.
March was a big crash. When
Yeah,
March
right.
happened on COVID, like
Yeah,
go back to any company that you want to. I want to say it's March 18th. On that third week of March, it just skyrocketed down.
yeah.
And what was beauty for me, it's I used that as a go by because what I started doing was since I read a lot of like I read these 100 bet stocks of the year, like 100 bet stocks of 2019, 2020, and then
Okay,
eventually when 2021 comes out.
right.
And so if it wasn't for that crash, I wouldn't have been able to jump more into it because
Mm,
what I originally did was I got I started looking at the markets which on the different companies that were trending for 2020 and where they were going.
mm,
So I saw what their highest possible outcome was from January to March and I'm like, okay, they're at $100. But As soon as the market crashed on March, they were at $30. And I'm like, shit, if I can buy it at $30 at this price, best case scenario, at the end of the year, they jump back at $100, I've already made my money.
Yeah.
And so
100%.
what I started doing was I would get that, and on the different companies, I would I follow like the Warren Buffett thing where it's like your minimum investment should be somewhere around $500. So as soon as I make my little, I guess my little coin to play the game, as soon as I make it, I started looking, okay, if I put my 500 in this company, what kind of net profit am I going to gain by the end of the year? Okay, well, this one's at a plus 1%, 2%, 5%. However, these are the highest ones. So I'm going to pick these. And I'm going to go into them. And these are the first ones that I'm going to invest in. That's how I worked with when I got into JP Morgan. And then the Tesla one was a different scenario. But at the beginning, I had.
When did you first get into Tesla? When did you first buy some Tesla?
Tesla, I didn't buy until they split. So at the beginning of the year, they dropped in March. And then that's when they started skyrocketing. And I want to say they jumped up to about $2,000 a share by, I want to say it was October when I told you about it. Maybe it was beforehand, or it might have been like August. But yeah, so they jumped up obviously because of SpaceX and with the new Tesla Cybertruck and all this and everything that Elon Musk was doing, that it skyrocketed. Well, at that point, they can't. More people can't invest in it because it's so high that they split the prices. They split it for Tesla and an Apple at the time. I was looking into Apple as well, but I just didn't think it was gonna. I mean, I knew it was gonna work because, well, obviously there's a new iPhone. There's always new product coming out.
Because it's Apple. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Apple. There's always new stuff coming out.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy Tesla. Like I told myself, as soon as it splits. Sure enough, the day it split, I bought one share. I was able to only buy one. I was able to buy one share, and I was like, okay, well, that's just gonna be my Tesla test.
That'll be your input for now.
And sure enough, it started dropping. It started dropping a little bit, and I kept on thinking, I'm like, the more it keeps on dropping, the better it probably will be. So at the time, I had a good significant amount of shares in ConocoPhillips. And I don't know if they were jumping up at the time. They haven't really jumped too high to where I made the right choice with Tesla because Tesla jumped so high. It's like what I've noticed with them and then with like these tech companies as far as like finance or energy kind of go, that it's like you can have 10 shares of one and it's jumping at very small increments. But when you're playing at Tesla, you're playing at the big I don't want to say the big boy table, but yeah,
no, it's different. Even seeing them daily or weekly, it's Tesla's a different animal.
It jumps up from $5 to $10 in just hours. Like it's when you can play blackjack. You can go to the smaller casinos and play like the $10 tables, and you're like, okay, well, I'm winning here and there. And then you go to the MGM or one of the Wynn or the bigger casinos, and you're like, no, it's no more $10 minimum. The minimum is 25. So it's like when you could play 10 games in this one, you're down to 4.
Yeah.
And
but there's more money at stake.
Oh yeah, there's more money into it, which is great. And hopefully what the rumor is that by the end of the week, SpaceX down here is gonna have another launch. So hopefully if it comes out all right, the stock share would jump up a little bit more.
Yeah. And see, like that's making me like I feel like me and you had briefly like text. We were texting about. I was texting you about Tesla, and like just because I just been mind blown on like just what the stock market has done for Tesla, and then with the split and everything. The whole scenario for Tesla, period, is nuts. For those that don't know, like they can go look it up and like look at the graphs and like look at all that shit. It's just nuts. But now I'm like, damn it, because you're like I told you, bro. You should have gotten it. I'm like, you're right. No, like you're absolutely right. And I'm like now I'm like, man, I'm considering. I may do my one like test coming up soon. Just to have some more like funds rolling in where I'll be able to do that. It's like, well, I might as well just jump in. It doesn't matter now. like at this point for Tesla, when it comes to Tesla specifically, we're talking specifically about Tesla right now. It's like I might as well just jump in because it's like they're definitely not going anywhere and
not anytime soon.
At least for now, it's did you buy? Or did you put in any? Did you buy any shares for anything at the lowest in March, or no? Or when did you put money in March? Do you remember?
When I did, it was probably a little bit after March is when I started doing. I started. Brian helped me out with the Excel table that I used to figure out which ones I wanted to invest in. But I went straight into. I went into.
Like Aprilish. It's like Aprilish is
Yeah,
when you
I
start.
want to
Okay.
say
Okay.
around there, and I went straight into J.P. Morgan and Chase. I went into J.P. Morgan, ConocoPhillips, Valero, straight out the block.
Shut the gate. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering because I was actually on the East Coast, so I live on the West Coast, but I was actually across because I was doing some stuff over there,
Mhm.
and when COVID started like gaining traction and like we're like, what the heck's going on? And I'm trying to get back to the West Coast, but along with all that stuff that's going on with my career stuff, my mind was on the stock market. I'm like, okay, where's this is gonna go somewhere. And they were starting to talk about like the shutdown. They were starting to mention, oh, airlines are stopping flights. International flights are definitely stopped now. So I dropped like I think I not so did I drop my entire savings of what I had at the time? I dropped a significant amount of my savings on
Mhm.
March 18th, and I'll never forget this because if I would have waited 5 more days, which you can't, this is a part where
You can't predict.
you can't predict it. March 23rd was the lowest point of this thing. And so by the 16th, so let's see, 16th, 15th, 14th, by the 14th through the 16th, they started rambling, right? Started rambling. They started, the news started mentioning COVID and all these shutdowns and less flights, international travel. And then over that weekend, I just started hitting. I got my laptop and I just started hitting the numbers,
Mhm.
and boom, boom, boom. I started looking. I'm like, yeah, I need to drop. I'm like, screw it. I'm just gonna drop X amount of money. So the March 18th, I dropped. Like I said, like it was like if not all my savings, I dropped the majority of my savings. I'm like, this is good. Like, and then lo and behold, the 23rd. So that next Monday is like when it was a low. Not obviously we can't predict it, but it was like the lowest. I'm like, damn, if I would have waited. But then I stopped beating myself up because like, okay, I did it. I still gained by wait. I waited a little bit longer to do some research to make sure that's
Mhm.
going where I want it to go so I can buy more shares. But it was just one of those. It's one of those moments now that I'll share. That's like you can't predict it, but like I knew that was gonna be the moment. That was gonna be a moment where I knew I could have dropped. I can drop a significant amount of cash. And
And
so that had been waiting because even then, like 2019 wasn't too bad for the stock market. Like
oh
2019
no.
overall wasn't bad. So I started in 2017, and I've mentioned this like on Instagram and on the podcast and whatnot. But like, so like I've with the experience, you see the trends, you see what you kind of want, what you kind of don't want, and so 2019 was not, or the past 3 years have not been that bad. But like seeing that knowing what's going on with the current event, it's like okay, something's gonna happen here where you can drop that cash because even Gary V talks a lot about like sitting on cash, sitting on cash, sitting on cash, and it's like
Mhm.
that was one of those moments where I was sitting on cash and I'm like okay, here we go, let's jump in. Um, I guess another point we can just ramble on is like Warren Buffett selling all his airline stock. That
Mhm.
kind of blew my mind. I was like, man, it made sense at the beginning, but now it's like, oh man, like because I told you like I was even considering buying some shares in airlines because they're going back up. I mean, people are still flying. People are
Yeah.
still doing that.
But I also did. He did mention when he did his quarterly earnings or his meeting that he normally has every year.
The yearly, yeah.
The yearly
It's like the
meeting that he
annual, yeah,
has
whatever it is, yeah, the Berkshire
for
Hathaway.
Berkshire and Hathaway. He mentioned that even though he did sell it, and they asked him, they're like, "Oh, but are you going to jump back in once it starts coming up?" And he's like, "I don't foresee travel being anywhere towards the same that it was how it was being previously. Like
Before,
it's still going to be limited spaces. It's still going to be wearing your mask. You probably the drinks and onboard stuff is not. It's going to be very limited while you're on there.
right?
And there's like many other factors between these airlines that it's going to keep their share price at a certain um, point, and it's not going to increase very much. It may, but I mean, I don't see it as it being very profitable, at least within the next. I mean, I don't see it within the next 5 years being as profitable as it was before.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, good.
Oh no, I was also thinking that going back to figuring out which ones to invest in a sense, I also noticed that when Warren Buffett, his biggest thing has always been finance.
Yeah.
So finance has always been like what I normally see first. And like JP Morgan, uh, Wells Fargo,
Yeah.
Prudential Financial, there's all these other firms that are out there that they're more steady.
Right.
And you might not, it's not going to be a Tesla where it's like, oh, you're going to jump up $15 in a day or $20,
Mhm.
but you do come up like JP Morgan a while ago was at 90. Now it's at 140.
Bro, well, even okay, so even the end, I showed you guys. I took a screenshot within like the last month or two, and I sent to you guys. I was like, I bought the index at it was like I don't know 120.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, this is like 3 4 years going on 4 years ago, and now it's like 230. It's like that's a lot. It's like this has not gone down. It's so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's just great, and it's also great whenever you see like your initial investment, and then you double up, and then
Yeah.
you double up that, and then it goes into like a snowball effect of every time it keeps on, every week, every month, it keeps on getting bigger. Like
Yeah.
you're not gonna have a month of decline. You're gonna have one decline, and then it's gonna keep on coming up, coming up, coming up.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's always just it's fun and it gets exciting
It
when you
is,
invest.
yeah, it's fun. I think that's our at least between me and you for sure. It's like that's our general consensus. Is like it's fun,
Mm-hmm.
and like when you start, so we can't predict the time of the trends, but we can see the trend in just period. The graph exist. The graph exists. So it's like seeing that and like starting to like have just there's some type of like it's not a sixth sense, but it's definitely like it's like a muscle that's like it's
Mm-hmm.
starting to get stronger and stronger as we keep seeing the markets. Once we start being able to see a year pass by, 2 years. So did you just start investing in 2020? You didn't have anything in 2019?
I in 2019 I had a continuation of I started in 2017 looking at this company called ResMed, which was
Okay.
it was it's the company makes manufacturing items for medical for hospitals.
Yeah.
So every machinery that's within the hospitals, it kind of makes it. So that was one of the first ones I invested in, and it's been pretty good.
Yeah.
It's more than doubled, but that's been within 3 years, a 3 year span. It's been one of those where it slowly goes ticking by tick by tick by tick. But
Gotcha.
either way, it's fine with me because most of my when I when I look to invest in in a specific firm, I'm looking at a 10-year investment plan. Like the only reason I sold ConocoPhillips, like I was gonna keep it for 10 years, but the
Mhm.
only reason I sold it was because Tesla was dropping so much that I was like, I gotta
That
get
was
in
gonna be
on
the better
this.
bet. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, I sold my shares and I was like, look, I'm gonna risk it for the biscuit on this one because
Yeah.
I
Well, yeah.
saw it.
You had intent to because you're still reinvesting. It's not like you were taking out the money to use it on let's
No,
just say a car. Something a liability. It could be a car. It could be something else. That it's not going to actually gain you money. You were taking money so you can actually
make money.
reinvest into
Yeah.
something that potentially, it's shown. Anybody can look it up. Like Tesla's just fucking crazy.
And it's a big thing about Robinhood too, because all it was just I clicked the button, sold my shares. Within the next couple minutes, I got my notification on my email saying that your Philips shares have been sold, and then on my buying power, it just jumped up to
The
my
new
new
amount.
amount, and then I just went right back into Tesla and bought some more shares.
That's super cool, man. Yeah, yeah. I think Tesla's gonna be our like staple story, just because I'm
Yeah.
like, because for one, like, given March, it's like I guess I'm waiting for like the bear market to come. Like
Mm-hmm.
March was like a slow month but it was because of an external factor. Besides like the Great Depression, like and even the recession because of the housing and the real estate market and whatnot. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm waiting for one of those because COVID is like I feel like you couldn't predict COVID unless you knew about like whatever. I don't even care about the origin of COVID. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like it happened and it was like okay, we found out about it and it dropped the market. But like something like the housing market, like the Big Short, like movie like the
Yeah.
Big Short, things like there's a lot of little pieces that a person was able to see like hey, this is gonna happen, and then the recession happened. It's like I'm not saying it's good, but like when it comes to stock market, it's like I am waiting for that bear market to happen where it's like I'll probably throw all my savings in. If at that point it's like knowing what we know now and then building on that. It's like like here, freaking take my money.
Because a lot of people did lose money like when that shot. Because there is a gentleman that I know that lost at least $250,000 within because like he was already about to retire, and it was just right there about to happen, and it was just bad luck.
It was bad timing.
COVID came, and it was like that little chunk. It was, I guess, in totality of his entire savings that he had in his 401k, it didn't. I guess it hit, but it didn't hit as bad as it could have. But you still look at it and that's still a hefty chunk, change that you lost, and it's like, oh, well, now I got to work a whole nother year just to make that back.
right.
When you could be at riding an RV or doing whatever you
want. I've seen that even now. People try and retire from what they're doing now. It's like, there's one specific. I can't give too much detail about it, but there was just an example where this person was having some retirement money given. It was going to come to them. And then because of the way the agreement happened, ended up losing that, and then like had to work for another year. Actually, another 2 years. Like 2-3 years. Like it's like even time wise, it's more significant. Money wise, it was like okay, he could have bit the bullet, but because of the way the agreement happened, it wasn't being extra. Now it's gonna be an extra 3 years for him. It's like damn that time wise that sucks because he had this plan, like he was ready to get out and get be done, and it's like oh no, not anymore.
Well, and here's my thing. It's like when we're talking about like as soon as the bubble is gonna pop, I wonder if there's gonna be an actual writing on the wall that we're gonna see when is it gonna pop.
Yeah, something that we can't see right now, but it's being written and done at the moment.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like I mean, the housing market with the Big Short, these like even bringing up the Big Short, these gentlemen knew that because of all these false loans that they were bringing in, that it was eventually gonna pop. So they kind of knew about it, and it's like. And with COVID, it was we joke. I guess as a society, we kind of joked about it that it was like, oh, it's in China, or it's here, or it's not gonna come to us.
Yeah, it can't happen to me. It's like when something bad happens. Like oh, that would. I mean,
it's like
so it happens to you. Yeah, and so it happens to you. It's like oh, I never thought this would happen to me. And it's like well, fuck, that sucks.
But what if we took it a little like I guess not as if COVID was gonna happen, but I meant as the individual like. This is going to cause something. And if we already know that if we already knew that we were going to get stuck home and we kind of foresaw it, it's like we would have already known that, hey, pull out right now. Week later, it's going to drop and then pull back in. And
get back in. Yep,
and that's what I'm saying. It's like, I wonder, my thing is that I want to know, it's like when the bubble is going to pop and it's going to pop, but I want to know what is going to be. I'm hoping that we can foresee what might cause it.
Right. It's like, okay, yeah, like, hey, pay attention to this external factor, COVID, real estate, let's say financial, whatever, anything. And we're like, okay, we're waiting, just waiting to hit the enter button to like cap.
And then just drop everything.
Yeah. Right. Drop that cash.
Pull all on red.
Oh man. Yeah. So I don't know, like it like, cause even I've been trying to give information to some of my, like I said, some of my colleagues and some of my friends that they're like getting into it or they want to, but they're not sure. It's like, man, if I could like share what my brainwaves do whenever I talk about it or like whenever I'm looking at trends, it's like, I don't know. I just encourage, lately it's just been like, if you're not in the market, get in the market, do it. Use a simple app like Robinhood. I always say this is also one of the things, guy. I knew I couldn't remember which app you use or what you use, but like I know this conversation would at least lead to like other things. The thing is, I don't have any experience or knowledge in Robinhood. And it's funny enough because so when I was playing music and we were traveling, there was this booking agent that used Robinhood, and they got me into it. But even when I was using the app, but also by then I already had my Vanguard account. So I was kind of sold. And I kind of already had my rhythm of how I did things with my investments. So by the time they shared Robinhood, I was like, oh, it seemed like it was supposed to be more convenient. And then like for me personally, it's like it wasn't convenient enough because I already knew how this other system.
App worked.
Yeah,
You're
so it's
already
like
engulfed.
I never even put money down, and like it was like whatever. But a lot of people use Robinhood. I'm like, well, I don't have that knowledge, but we can have this conversation in general, and then see how deep we can dive into it. It's like, hopefully you give your knowledge of Robinhood so that people can continue to hopefully gain enough confidence to just, like I said, for me, my biggest thing right now is because we're in this bubble. It's like you need to jump in, and
Yeah.
while I feel like we could argue to wait, save some cash, like just. But the thing is, at this point, we've been in this boat for like 2 years, like 2 solid years at minimum.
We've been talking about it since around 2017,
Yep.
2018 that we would be hanging out and we're like, oh, I'm waiting for the bubble. I'm waiting for the
Yeah.
bubble.
And we're still
And
we're waiting for that bubble
yeah,
because COVID was the bubble. COVID was
the teaser.
it's a health factor. It's a thing. Yeah, it's a teaser. Yes, in the stock market world, but like it's not the bubble that we're thinking of. And
No.
like between me, you and Brian, it's not the bubble where we're looking
And,
at and thinking of.
and that's the thing. And I guess when um well, to speak up, like the app, I like using Robinhood because of its simplicity to it.
Mm.
Because you can make your own list of which companies you're watching out for. But at the end of the day, you also have to look at what do you want to. You have to kind of do your own research in a sense to where do you want to, what field you want to go into, or where you want to go into first. And once you have your little list and you deposit money into your account and you know where you're going to start splitting your money, you'll pick which company you want to go into. So I have it linked up to my accounts to where um, it requests for me to do buying power. So if I know Tesla share is at 400 and I only got $15 left because of dividends or whatever that gets sent into my buying power account. Well,
Right.
I need to deposit the rest of my money to buy the one share that I need. So it'll deposit the money. And what's kind of convenient about it was that it does gives you a credit in a sense because you're already linked up to it. If I would do it tonight, it would give me my credit of the 375 that I need, or the 385 that I need to make the full 400. It would give me the credit, and then the next day or in the next 2 days, because you already made that transaction, it will take the money from your bank account or your card or however you're linked up to it. So it doesn't make you waste time. Like you don't have to be like, oh well, I can't buy this share because well, I have to wait till my money gets transferred from my bank account to my Robinhood or however you're doing it. It's Robinhood gives you already the credit for it. Like it's kind of like it knows you're good for it.
Okay.
So it would give you the credit. You can buy it right then and there. So you don't waste any time. You don't waste any like any time that where the stock jumps or it goes lower or however it is. You just get it right then and there. So it's really convenient. It's really simple to use. And for anybody that is trying to get into the market, get in if you're ready to get in, because it's not like if you want to spend money and waste money, go to a bar, go something, because that's going to be something that you're going to be empty. That's going to be spending money.
To be fair, we like doing, like, even with all this investment talk, we still do our fair share. Even when I was back home, like we were investing, but we did our fair share of like going out and like having fun too. It's not like we're just like it's interesting how we've kind of it's not developed yet because it's an ongoing process, but like we're developing that, like the fun, going out to bars, going out. At this point, obviously, it's different now with COVID, but the point is like the principle of going out to bars, going out and having fun, but then drawing back into like, okay, this is also like a very top priority in our list for like our lives and our well being.
Because it's gonna keep on going up. Like you can, okay, well, let me go say, oh, you could just mention that it's like I can put in $1 in, and it's either gonna go up or down. But guess what? I'm not gonna lose it.
Yeah.
It's not like you're throwing, like you could throw money away. And honestly, I do see COVID as a blessing. I mean, it's kind of messed up.
No,
but
on the health factor, it's messed up. But continue still.
As for the ideas of, well, we've been restricted on not going out, and it's like, okay, well, if I can't go out, what am I doing? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm sitting down, I'm not doing anything. And instead of being a bum on the couch, it's like, well, I look into the money that I could have spent going out or going to dinner or going to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to use it and reinvest it in the market, because if I leave it in my bank account, yeah, it's there, nobody's touching it, but it's not like it's going to do anything.
Yeah, it's not doing anything. That's the
exactly
point.
That's the problem. But if I invest it in the stock market, it's at least going up, it's going down, it's moving, it's progressing, it's becoming fatter. It's like, it's just,
that's a good way to put it. I like that. It's like I literally picture like a dollar bill like getting fatter.
and that's the way I think. I wanted to use the analogy of maybe like a pig before you take it to slaughter. Yeah. But it's because it's like, I mean, you could just have it there and it's going to be in its pen all day, but if you don't feed it, or if you don't feed it, it's not going to get fatter, and the fatter it gets, the more value it's going to have. So it's like, why am I going to have $1 in the bank account when I can put $1 in the stock market, and by next week it's going to be $1.50 or $2, and I didn't even do anything.
Right.
Literally that just moved it.
I'm glad you brought up like even so $1.10, $1.25, from $1 to $1.25, something like that. I'm glad you brought that up, because that might be another little issue, underlying issue of like, well, I'm only gaining 25 cents. It's like, well, multiply 25 cents times $20,
mm-hmm.
and then multiply that times 10. Let's say your 10-year program, your 10-year plan, not program, 10-year plan. Mine's about 10-year plan as well. And it's like that adds up. Because then we can go into compounding interest and like all that, and now we're thinking $100, and then $1,000, and then $10,000, and then $100,000. Like, I don't know if it was Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, or one or the other, where they're like, when you make your first grand, then aim to like the next 10, or where we make your first 10, or making the first 10 is like the hardest, something like that. Have you heard that? Do you remember that quote by chance?
No.
I'm actually gonna look. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna Google it right now.
Because what I was gonna do was bring up the idea of remember when I sent you the photo that I was reading the book, The Conscious Leadership?
Yes.
And so in the chapter that I got to was it's called Long Term. So it was bringing up to where you're not trying to do and get the short buck in your business, that you're trying to increase it and look at the value of your business, that it's not supposed to just last your lifetime, but it's going to last 3 generations, you're not supposed to be thinking about it just like, oh, it's going to be till I retire and that's it. No, it's going to be something that prolongs your kid's lifetime, your grandkids' lifetime, and so on and so on. And at this point in the chapter, they brought up this analogy that kind of makes sense. It kind of could connect to the stock market. So there was these 2 gentlemen, and there was this Roman emperor that or it was an emperor pretty much, that he loved chess so much that he made it a thing to where it's like, anybody that bests me at chess, they can have whatever they want from my kingdom. You can make your wish. And the gentleman wanted to get paid. So this traveler came by, he beat him. He got the best of him in chess. And he asked him, it's like, oh, well, I want to get paid in the amount of grain that you add at double through your chessboard. So if you think about your chessboard, you have all your little pieces. Mm-hmm. And the way he did it was, it went from 1 grain of rice. From the next piece, it was 2 grains of rice. Next piece, it was 4 grains of rice. And then it went to 8.
So he's doubling. Okay,
it was doubling every time till you get to the end of the chessboard. And it was never ending, to where it's like, it's always being doubled. And you can relate that to the stock market, to where it's like, you have your dollar. Your dollar goes and becomes 2. That 2 becomes 4 to 8. And it just keeps on growing, and it's never ending.
Yep, and that's the part that also it brings me back to our principle of like being giddy and being excited about like the stock market and being in the stock market, being in the stock market. So I found the quote. So the quote goes, this is according to whatever moneyblog.com, but it says the first 100,000, so it's 100,000. So it says the first 100,000 is a bitch, but you got to do it. I don't care what you have to do. If it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon, find a way to get your hands on 100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas a little bit. It was Charlie Munger that said that. And I remember that quote. I just can't remember if it was Warren or Charlie Munger that said that. Mm-hmm. Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett are they're the Berkshire Hathaway guys, and they've been business partners for, I'm going to say 2,000 years. They've just been business partners since the beginning of time. But I do remember that quote, because I remember 1 and a bunch of zeros, where it's like, 1 once you get to a certain level, it's like you can back off, but that's the point. It's like get into the game and get your hands on that money.
And honestly, to be fair, if you're always investing, and think about it, like you don't have it doesn't matter if you go out or not, but I'm going to use this example. It's like, oh, you don't have to go out this night, but let's say you were going to spend $100 that night. Well, you don't go out, you have that $100, and then next week you were going to go out again, but you're like, you know what, I'm going to stay inside. And those other $100 that you were going to spend, you keep on keeping them and saving them, and then you move them over and you start investing in the stock market, and it's not killing you because you would have spent that money no matter what going out. But at least now, instead of spending it on whiskey, beer, or whatever,
food, going out for dinner,
or whatever, it's now growing and doing its own thing, and it's like that night. Yeah, you could have spent $100, but now that $100, instead of having the extra $100 in your bank account, you really have $200 because it grew within the next week.
Right, and we can even get to like now we could like reel in Brian for like the financial like counseling part, but like so let's say you are going to go out because these are examples that I think we've talked about maybe offline or whatever, but like so let's say we have a set amount. Let's say out of $100 we said we're only going to use, let's say 60 at the bar. We're like, okay, we have $100, but I'm only going to use 60. So you have 40 left. Well, then just save that 40 and sit on that cash until you get 100 to then invest into the stock market. That's another thing. I think people get overwhelmed because like I give a lot of people and I'll only tell this my origin story number wise in person. I won't do it like online where it's just like telling everybody my financial life. But the principle is like people do, in my opinion, because of just my interaction experience, is like they just get overwhelmed by how much money I started with, back in 2017. They're like, well, I don't have that money. I'm like, just save up. I'm like, I was a musician for 6 years and like I did retail and I went to college. I did college, that whole thing too. It's like it was just saving that 40 out of the 100 or 50 or whatever I had in my budget. It was setting that aside because I knew that this was something I wanted to get into. And then once I was able to save the money, which took me a couple of years to actually start investing, it's like but I had that significant amount. It's not like I loaned it or I asked for it or anything. It's like, no, it was putting that $40 away or making myself only spend the $40 and saving the 60 because I knew I wanted to get into the stock market. Those are different examples that I can bring up where it's like, don't get overwhelmed as well. Don't get overwhelmed with like, I don't have $5,000. I don't have $1,000. I don't have $500 to put in the stock market. It's like, no, just maybe we can just do less of one thing to also gain or whatever. And in the case of COVID, it's like, well, you're going out less. You're also technically working it because did you have any like time off? Like as soon as COVID hit, they sent anybody home. You just continue working online?
Yeah, I've been working from home since March.
Okay. And so if you're in a job that you're able to do what, like in this case where Freddy's been able to work from home, then like you are still making the money. That means money somewhere above our heads is still moving on in your sector of whatever whatever industry or sector you're working in.
And it's a kind of I guess it's kind of a beautiful thing with anybody that like went to school or for any little thing got some kind of higher education or any kind of thing like that, because it's like, think about it, teachers didn't get laid off. They kept on teaching. There was a little pause, but they kept on teaching. Healthcare workers kept on going at it. Law enforcement kept on going at it. Any firms, business, legal, I mean, I haven't really heard much. I've heard a couple firms here and there that they couldn't make it or that they couldn't keep all their employees. But the thing is, it's like, if you're working, obviously the money you would have spent on doing some other activities, you're not spending it anymore. Yeah. So use it in something, like even in that aspect, like let's say this, like, I mean, obviously you can do however you want to do it, but how about if you jump in already and you just make the jump of, I'm going to jump into the stock market, I'm going to spend my $500. Okay, well, I already spent my $500, but now that I spent my $500, it's like, damn, now I can't buy the PlayStation. Well, it's like, well, you're going to get more out of. And then it's like, well, I guess I don't have to buy it right now. I can always buy it in 2 or 3 weeks when I get paid again. Oh, okay. Well, when I get paid again, I'll buy it then, because
Yeah.
you're always gonna, as long as you're being in a steady job, you're always
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
make money.
Yeah, as long as you have,
So
and that's things like so. Like, we're not saying that. So if for those that did get laid off or they got maybe their paycheck because like mom and pop shops, there are people out there
restaurants and
that
everything out there,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Like we're not saying that that you have all this money or anything. We're trying to develop these building blocks to be able to just get into the game because that's the biggest thing. But yeah, so like I guess I don't want listeners to feel like, well, I got late. I got late. It's like we know there's exceptions. There's definitely exceptions, especially when it comes to mom and pop shops. Which now that things are starting to open up, even here where I'm at, it's like I try to find those mom and pop shops where it's like, let's say getting a haircut or getting food. It's like, okay, what's a mom and pop shop that I can go shop because I know I work. I still have I have a check come in as and I have my salary as I'm going to work. But it's like we're just talking about again the principles of like what we've done so far to be able to start the game. And it's like yes, there are exceptions. Yes, a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people had to shut down their own businesses, family businesses and stuff like that. It's like yes, but for those of us that have been fortunate enough to continue working or if we have some savings that's like it's kind of just sitting there, that the point the principle is to get into the game. And and if you're using your money for one thing and given COVID, you're not going out as much, like, you can use that money to build,
stuff that,
build your wealth. Yeah. Trying to have
it,
more assets and liabilities.
yeah. And it's kind of a thing that it's like you have that extra, if you have that extra income, it's might as well use it on something than to leave it for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another thing. I'm trying to think of how I was going to tie that in. Cause it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I guess I just, cause like I like buying things, but I'm very like picking on like what I buy. Like as far as like I like collecting. Like I just started recently collecting like flag. I sent you guys like the picture of my flags that I have here. And like I have some flags at home. So it's like I collect those at like this is a specific like custom made sweater for some stuff that I did in 2019. But the point is like I like spending stuff like on things, but like my priority is still my like okay what not what's stock market doing today. For me, it's not what stock market doing today. It's like what am I'm thinking about that 10-year development. I'm like, okay, where has this gone the past 5 to 10 years, and then where are they planning to go, and continuing. I guess we're going kind of a circle because it's like the point is to put money aside to get into the game, but it's like because even like I haven't even looked at the Amazon because I don't have any stock in Amazon, but like I just feel like also people like from what I'm seeing is like buying things. I guess maybe buying too many things. So that's another thing is like being unresourceful with all the money you have. So like because you have. So I guess you brought up a good point of like the PlayStation. Like it just came out a few months ago or whenever it came out. I'm not a gamer, so I'm not in that game. I'm not in that in that sector of being a consumer. As far as gaming goes, but like I know a lot of gamers and they talk about all these games and all that stuff, which is cool. At least you have something. You have a hobby. You have a way to connect with people. You're online gaming and all this other stuff. But it's like with that, it's like you can also we can tell it back to like, hey, let's just put a little, put the $20 aside to get into the game. Because even like in Robinhood, it doesn't have to be like whole shares, right? You can buy like
you can buy a percentage of it. It doesn't necessarily have to be the whole share itself. You can buy a percentage of it. But like how you are, where you're ultimately thinking of your goal, I'm somewhat the exact opposite to where if I'm investing in something and I drop what I want to buy on it for whatever reason, I'm like, oh man, you know what? Yeah, maybe I can't go out this night because I already spent the money. So it's kind of like I look at it as I already spent the money, but it's not really like I lost it. It's just I guess it's the idea of seeing it. It's like when you move something from your checking to your savings.
Yeah.
And it's like you see it that your checking is a little bit lower and you're like, damn, I spent money. But really it's in your savings, and it's just something that you're not touching, or it's doing on its own thing. Right. So like that's the way I see it. It's like, oh man, I spent money. but really it's growing and doing its own thing.
Right. Yeah, and that's fine. And see, like for me, I guess me and like my colleague, we're in a very specific scenario because we're healthcare workers, right? So because of that, it's like I'm also more hesitant to just go out. Like I won't go out to even a Walmart unless I absolutely have to, which I go about once a week, but I have a plan. I know shit have a plan. Like I know where everything is in the store. I'm like, okay, even if I need like 20 things from groceries to like just household items, right? Let's just say I need that. Well, like I develop my plan to go in, get everything as I'm going through the aisles. I know exactly what I'm looking for, get whatever food, go through the checkout aisle, and then I'm out the door. Like it's like, because it's like I talk about this with my nurses literally all the time. It's like you cannot wash your hands enough times in a day, especially if you're going out in the public. Because I still not well, okay, that's a lot. I don't still see people now because I'm not out as much. But even when I was in an airport on like March 9th, 18th or 19th, it was one of those days, and I still saw people not washing their damn hands. And it's and that's before we even knew what COVID really was or wasn't, or whatever the skepticism may be. It doesn't even matter. But people, because of the unknown, they still were not washing their hands, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. And like I said, me and the nurse that I work with, like we talk about it constantly. It's like that's why I don't go out as much. You know, I don't do like, and some things are more open than others, but like in general, like going to Walmart, it's like if I can do takeout, if I'm gonna order food, if I can do takeout or whatever, like that's what I'm doing. Even last week, I think I did delivery. I didn't even leave at all. I just stayed. I just stayed put. It was more for me. The opportunity cost was more beneficial to order delivery for that scenario than go out and get it myself.
I think I found a way that we can also tie this into actually like more people investing. How many apps do you have that you use that you order takeout or pickup or delivery? Like Pizza Hut, Chick-fil-A. How many apps?
So for me personally, I only have Domino's, and I only use it because of where I lived before. So right now, I actually don't have any, because the where I was ordering from, it's a mom and pop shop, and they have their own delivery. So it was in house. So the money was still circulating in house. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I have friends that have Postmates and all this other stuff, and there's been times where we're hanging out and I see how much like the delivery fee is or whatever. I'm like, oh my god! And if we order 2 meals, it's like whatever amount of money. It's like I can't. I didn't know because I don't have those apps, but like seeing that even a few times, like what the fuck? Like it blew my mind.
The way I was bringing it into it's because it's like, how many times are you well, you sign up, you get your email, you order it on your phone, and you go pick it up or whatever you do. But every time you order, you're getting some points. You're getting some point system. So it's always increasing. So like Chick-fil-A, for example. Chick-fil-A has the app. You go, you order it, and sometimes it already has your order from before. You order your chicken sandwich or whatever, and then go, you pick it up, you stop by, and you go, and then it gives you points. And then after, I don't know how often, if it's Chick-fil-A, Whataburger, or however you want to go with it, the more often you eat it, the more points you get, and the more points you get, the more free stuff you get. Right. So in a sense, it's kind of also the stock market. In a sense, it kind of has that same, if you don't do it or use it or put it, all you're doing is just getting points and points and points, and it's increasing. And you're getting some kind of sort of reward at the end of the day.
That's actually a great way to put it. Continue.
Yeah, because that's the way I see it. Because I'm like, I've used Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, Whataburger, and all that, and I just go, I put in my app, I go to the pickup spot, I go, they bring it out, and I leave. Right now, I'm pretty sure that I can get my own free chicken sandwich or cookie, or I have like
something.
Yeah, and it was even like that with Starbucks too. And all it is just signing up. You're not doing anything. You're just pressing a button on an app, and then you get some kind of points or some reward system for even spending the money there. And that's in a sense what the stock market's doing. You're getting a point system for spending money in.
At that, so like in my case, with the index is a good for me. I like using the index as an example because it covers there's a variety of companies. So there's Apple, Microsoft, Exxon's on there. So like let's say, so I have the index, so I have money in the index, but then I also have my Apple phone, right? And so like this is like buying this is for the listeners listening and the viewers watching, but like me buying this technically is putting points in that fund versus not being in the stock market, and let's just say for the sake of conversation, for the sake of the example, Freddy has Apple stock, and I don't have any Apple stock. I'm on the index, nothing. I buy this iPhone. Well, now Freddy has some of this money in there. Mm-hmm. Let's just say I have my iPhone. Now Freddy buys an iPhone. Well, now that's two phones. Now we know how popular Apple. We don't have to go into the details of how popular Apple is. Millions of people have Apple phones, and those are those points that you're accumulating. And it's not only your individual phone. It's everybody that's buying a phone, a MacBook, a tablet, a watch. Watches have become so in general. I feel like watches have become so popular lately too. Not that they weren't, and not that they weren't going to gain traction. I don't believe that, but I just feel like on a personal level, with people that I work with and people that I interact with on a daily basis, I see them all with a Garmin and an Apple Watch. All types of all these companies that have digital smartwatches. I couldn't think of the name. Yeah, smartwatches. It's like. And I can't do it. The farthest I went with it was having a Fitbit, and even then, like I used that motherfucker till it died, and then I never bought another one because I use it so much, and I stopped wanting to charge it and stuff. So it was like whatever.
Yeah, I know how you mean. I still have the version 3 of it, and I'm just like, well, I mean, this one I can put it in the water and I can swim with it. I can run with it. I use it to bike. So I mean, why do I need to buy the new one?
Yeah, the brand new one. Yeah, that's another thing. So that's nothing that's pretty funny. Like wanting to be the first like dipper into new. I have to have this brand new like Apple Watch. It's like, well, like you have that one. I have. So I don't know if I've given this story on here, but like the only reason why I got this new phone, technically, I think it's the XR. I think this is the XR, which I bought in 2019. In San Antonio, because when I was doing some work and I was unavailable, I left my phone at home, and my parents thought it was lost, and that wasn't the case. So because of that, I bought a new phone, and it's all well. I ended up finding that phone, so it's fine. Point is that was an iPhone 7, and before that, I had the iPhone 5.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I didn't get the 6 was because at the time the 7 had just come out, so it was cheaper to actually buy the 7 than to get the 6. Because I was like, I was just trying to find the cheapest route, and even then, like buying this versus like the actual like iPhone 10 and like the iPhone 10 Plus or whatever iterations are out there. It's like I need the cheapest iPhone. I have gotten used to the iPhone. I'm very like even my MacBook, like having like Apple products, like I'm just so used to it now that's like it's hard for me to get out. But I'm also not looking to like just be up to date with like the newest technology that's being released.
Yeah, I mean, the newest thing I had to do was I did finally get a new phone, but I got a new phone because the old one was just it started messing up on me, and then also the quality, or like from the camera quality and all that other stuff, that everything that you can accumulate to, it was just like it was just at that point where it's like, okay, well, maybe I do need a new phone now.
Right, that's a generic, or not generic. That's a very generalized but like specific example of like, yeah, like you actually needed it now. It's not like it was like the new phone came out. It's like,
I have to have
it. Obviously, like there's those, when you look at the bell curve, there's those first entry buyers that will do that, and that's their lives, and that's the way they live their life, which is fine. I always will retort to like, I don't judge. I literally don't care. Like you can do whatever you want. But it's like there are those first entry buyers where it's like I have to have X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't have to be an Apple. There, you have your Android, Paul.
But you have to have the newest, so that you have to be the first one to have the new product.
You have your devout Microsoft, and you have your devout Apple product buyers. Oh man, that's pretty cool. Man, we covered a lot of stuff, and it's only been like an hour. That's pretty. Like I feel like we covered like a lot of good points, or not enough points, but we covered like some good points on like just the whole investing thing. So yeah, it was just, and then when I texted you, I was like, man, like, because I had so on the Moving with Life podcast on the Instagram, I've been looking back at my old vlogs from when I started in like 20. I started in 2018. I think I did in 2018. I made X amount of vlogs. I don't remember how many, but so I've been going through them because I was like, man, like I do want to bring more content to the Instagram. I do feel like I need to just be more productive. I do have the time. Like right now I do have the time, and I'm like, okay, I need to take advantage of this time that I do have whenever I'm not working, to be able to like figure out if I'm not doing anything, I need to figure out how am I going to be more productive with the podcast. Because like it's like I feel I told Brian this too is like this is the podcast, even with my little breaks that I've had to take because of work. It's always been something that I'm like at some point in the month or whatever, I'm like, man, I need to get back to it. I need to get back to it. And like now here doing Zoom calls or trying to do, build up Zoom calls and whatnot and conversations. It's like, yeah, okay. Like I need to jump in anyways. So I've been going through the content and there was even on these first episodes, I was reading, so it was 2017 because I was reading the book Unshakable by Tony Robbins, and I've mentioned it before. And that book was the book that got me to just start investing. For like just reading that book, it talked because they had a partnership with like Vanguard and like a bunch of CEOs, and that he talked to. But in reading that book, I'm like, okay, I need to do that. That was my throwing curve versus because you said like the people you work for. Did they bring like somebody to talk to you guys about?
Yeah, I guess he's kind of like a financial advisor, I want to say pretty much, okay. But like they pretty much implement this with like the 401k kind of thing.
Okay, but, okay.
Yeah, so but the gentleman did it through Fidelity.
Right. So like you have that, and like for me it was because in 2017 I was exercising all the time. Like I have vlogs, I just took them off because like there's a lot of like where my house is, like there's a lot of like personal stuff that I don't want online, at least at the moment. But in watching them, there's enough information where it's like they were talking about it. I was talking about like investing, and I'm like, and what I was reading, I'm like, oh yeah, and then I'm like, and then I've been talking about investing at work. I'm like, and then me and you were talking about Tesla. I'm like, so all that tied into like what we're doing today, and it's like, like going back to like podcasting and content, it's like rewatching and like little pieces that I've put up. These past few days, it's like I'm talking about investing. It's like, man, and my biggest thing is like that was like in May. It'll be 4 years ago that I started investing, and it's like, and again, like reiterating, is like me, you, and Brian. Like we were already like I had already started the podcast in January 2017, and then like that was one thing that I knew I wanted to do, which is podcasting. But then like in that book Unshakable, Tony Robbins talked with like Gary Vee and who was Gary Vee, and he had a couple of interviews that he did, and I was like, yep, like I need to do this, and then I jumped in, and here we are 4 years later, having a conversation of what we've learned so far, what we're kind of doing now, and it's like, yeah, it's relevant, and it's like I feel like this is still only the beginning because we're still waiting for the damn bubble to pop.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of a thing that it's like. How's the best way to put it? You can retire from your job. You can't retire from investing. Yeah.
And you could, but like at that point, like you shouldn't want to.
No, I mean, yeah, I guess in the way that, yeah, you can always like pull out your money and however you want to do it, and you could stop. But it's kind of those things. It's like it's somewhat of a career that you don't need to go to,
or you don't have to retire from. Like you don't have to take out. You don't have to stop.
Yeah. You don't have to stop, or you don't have to. I mean, obviously, there's people that go to school for this stuff and everything like that. But it's like you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a career. Mm-hmm. It can just be you can be your own little side hustle.
Yeah, it's and then you can go in because like the thing I don't have, like I guess. Excuse me. Damn. It's not that I couldn't learn it or do it, but like I don't have enough time to like day trade, which is a whole different game.
Oh yeah, no, that's totally different.
Yeah, I think I talked to you about that. Could you give more detail on day trading? Because I know we've talked about it briefly, but like I know I don't have enough information to feel like.
From day trading, what I've noticed, it's more like it is kind of like how it is with options, but you have to be on it to where you're always looking at from hour to hour, minute to minute, to where stuff is going up, stuff is going down, and then you sell at the right moment throughout the day, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like a shorter term version of options, because options you can leave it out for the week, the month, however.
Yeah.
But with day trading, you have to. Day trading feels more like an 8 to 5 kind of job.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I told. That's what I was talking about even yesterday. I'm like, I don't know too much detail, but I'm like, I know that if you're considering it, you better give it the 8 hours, like the full 8 hours from bell to bell. You better be on. Have multiple. You probably want not multiple computers, but you'll definitely need multiple screens. At least I would say minimum 2. I know Brian likes. I use 2 at work. But I know Brian uses 2.
I got 2 at work.
Yeah. So it's just better. I've gotten so used to it now, and like, but yeah, I that was one of my things. Like, I don't know much about it, but I know if I have to say anything to say about day trading, it's like you better give it the 8 hours it needs, because that's the only way you're gonna gain is if you're giving it the 8 hours. It's not a half a day thing or it's definitely not a convenience thing. No. Definitely not a convenience thing.
And it kind of is like, that's why like options kind of give you that feel to it, because let's say even if you do it for like a 2-week period, let's say you buy your contract for 2 weeks. Here's the thing: if you're not looking at it constantly throughout the day, you have to at least be looking at minimum at least 4 to 5 times a day. Just opening up the app and seeing how you're doing, or having the window on your screen and seeing how you're doing, because you can click on it and it'll give you the little graph to where how it's been, if it's dipped, if it's gone up, however. And in options, if you're not constantly paying attention to it, you're not gonna make your maximum profit that you could have made, because maybe on Tuesday you're up $5 and you could have sold it at the end of the day, because on Wednesday it might drop down 4. Or even throughout the day, something might happen to where Tuesday at 11 o'clock, it spiked up to $1, and by 4 o'clock on that same Tuesday, it went back down 2. Like here would be an example. I don't know if you remember when Spotify got Joe Rogan's contract when he did the podcast.
Yeah.
Spotify, as soon as it was made public, the stock jumped like over $1 on that, like as soon as that happened.
Okay.
So let's say if you had an option for Spotify, you could have, and it eventually started coming back down, or it started doing how it normally trends up. Yeah. But if you're not paying attention throughout the day when that spike hits, you can't maximize your profit.
Right. Yeah. And see, like, just give even that example. Like, in my head, I'm like, nope, I don't shut off, but it's definitely a no for me right now. Like, it's definitely not something that I can't look at a computer screen for 8 hours a day, or even a phone screen. Like, and sometimes it's not even like that I can't, but it's like you shouldn't, I shouldn't. It's also not healthy, but the principle stands where it's like, like, I already know that game's not for me. I know that about myself now, where it's like, I'll do, it's a little more long game. I probably check my app, because Vanguard has an app as well, and I probably check it once a day just to see where, and it's not even to see, okay, what have I gained or what have I lost. It's just like, what happened today? Like, it just kind of gives me a summary to the day, and then I'll check in the morning, or maybe twice a day. So in the morning, I'll check it, just see where everything's opening up at. And then like right now as well, it's closed for sure. So like, I'll probably check it like later on tonight, just see, hey, how did the day go? Like, it's more of just checking in on my little babies to see, how the day
they're growing.
Yeah, how it's going. And sometimes at the end of the day, it's in the red, so you just wait.
Yeah,
just wait until it's green.
And I'll be honest, I do check mine a little bit more often.
But you have the option, so it's also a little bit different, because you have like, and I think mine are options too. But like some of the companies that I'm in individually, I've looked at their 5-year trend, so I know I'm not gonna take out the money. I know I'm not gonna sell anytime soon. So that's the only reason why I'm looking at it like more or less amount of times per day.
Yeah. And I mean, I enjoy it because I'll see a little increment here. I see it up or down, but it is what it is. But I always check it like at least once or like at least 4 times a day, because I'll either check it like once for sure, once in the morning. And it also helps that since I do have like those, it provides like those little widgets. I'll just swipe through my home screen, and then it will either be green, red, however it is. But I will say this: when it comes to like options and the ones that I've had, I will have an extra computer screen looking to where it's not that I'm paying attention constantly, but I'm always having that peripheral vision looking at it.
Yeah, it's
that
there, like,
I know I'm not paying attention to it, but it's not like a phone where it's like, oh, you lock it or whatever, and you're there. But it's like, no, I'm doing my like I'm taking care of whatever I have to, doing whatever, reading,
whatever. Yeah, whatever work you have.
I can glance and I can see where it's at, what's going on, what's it doing, because I know those, if it's not like, where you can leave it alone for 10 years and you'll see, oh, what happened in 10 years? No, if you're not on the ball on it, then you're pretty much throwing your money away at that point. Because I mean,
that's fair. No, that's fair. That's fair assessment.
You can always double up in a day, or there are those cases where I've seen people that can make a serious amount of cash because if something would jump up $4 to $5, you're buying it at 100 shares. So you're buying 100 shares of that company within those 2 to 3, 4 weeks or however long contract you have.
Yeah.
Or you can also say that the company is going to fail. It also gives you the option to put money into it to where I have a feeling that, you know what, Pfizer's going to go down this week. I have a feeling in 2 weeks, Pfizer's going to go down. So if it's at $38, I have a feeling it's going to drop down to 37. And as soon as it hit 37, if it goes any lower to 36, I made a net profit of $1 already. Or if it goes to 34, that's a net profit of $3 because I'm already assuming that they're going to fail. And you have that option when you trade options. You have that option to where I know Apple's going to fail this week, or I know Apple's going to prosper this week. And as soon as you make the choice, if it's at 100 and you want it at 101, or you think that you buy your contract at 101 at that percentage, or however you're buying it, because obviously the more money, depending how much you want to gamble in a sense, because you could say, oh, I think it's going to jump up $4, more than $4 this week. Sometimes that might not be as realistic. So it might be cheaper. But if you're saying that, oh, I have a feeling it's going to jump up $1, where it's like, well, yeah, more often than not, it is probably going to jump up $1. So that one might cost a little more because it's more probable that it's going to happen.
Right.
And as soon as it jumps up to over the dollar, that all that is net positive for you, and it's getting multiplied by 100. Because I guess the bright side of these options are, obviously you can't buy 100 shares of something. There's no way you can put in 100 shares of your own money, or I guess there's not many of us that can buy 100 shares of Apple or Tesla.
Right. Yeah.
But the options gives you the ability to not spend that much money and still make the profit that you see it's going to make.
Yeah.
So it's a good short-term thing if you're going to be putting the time into it.
Right. Yeah. And see, and see that's perfect. And I feel like you cover at the end where it's like if you're willing, and if you know you can, or not even you can, we all can, but if you're willing, you're gonna put the time in. You'll be able to see that net gain. That net gain at the end of the week or whatever. You're at the end of the option where it's like, yeah, I made X amount of money in 2 weeks, and cool.
I mean, think about it right now. Like most people, I mean, even the options for Tesla right now are going to be expensive, but if you already know, hey, like they're probably gonna have a rocket launch at the end of the week, and if it's successful, it's gonna jump up again. So imagine having 100 shares of Tesla at that point. If it goes up,
I can bring up $10. The one I'll always bring up is Bitcoin. Imagine having Bitcoin in 2010 to what it is now.
Well, here's the beauty. Like, think about this. Netflix, back in 2011, we were all in college. Think about it.
Yeah.
And like pretty much when we were in college, Netflix was at $9 a share. $9 a share. You were pretty much, we were paying the monthly membership when we should have probably been paying for the investment. The investment share. That's the one that always hurts me, because it's a beautiful thing that we were paying for Netflix, and we're paying the $9 or whatever to stream the service, and it was cool. We're thinking. I guess the way we were thinking is like, oh man, $10 a month, and I get all these shows. That's awesome. When we probably could have been thinking, oh, for $9 I can buy the share, and you could have bought the share, and right now the company's worth over $510 a share. So, I mean,
bro, Tesla in 2016 or whatever was like $60.
Yeah, that too. Or Tesla at the beginning of the year when the market crashed was at 300 and it jumped to almost $2,000.
Yeah, and now it's and even with the split, it's at 800 and like 30 something, or it's at 800 right now, moving, but 800 ish.
And the beautiful thing about what the split happened was I have a friend that we talk about investments, and we talk about reading. We have different books that we read, and we go into many different like psychology and investment stuff. And he had Tesla when the market crashed. So in a sense, he invested in, he had probably like maybe like 1 or 2 shares. That's the thing. Like, yeah, he had like probably 1 or 2 shares, and then it jumped up to the two to like the 50, over 1,500, $2,000, and he still had those 2 shares. And then when the split happened, it split by like 4. It split 4 ways. Tesla split 4 ways. So those 2 shares went to 8. So now he has 8 shares. Now he has 8 shares of Tesla, and now those 8 shares doubled up from the 3 something to now
3 whatever to 800.
So that's the thing. It goes back to that, like that rice with the chessboard example. That it's like you're always doubling up on something.
Yeah, on some. If it's not on something at some point in time, the timeline will give you that double up at some point. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If it's not the money if it's not the money fast, it's gonna be the time that's gonna give you that money doubled up at some point. It's pretty much inevitable. You just gotta play the game. You gotta be in the game, and you gotta want to understand like what's going on.
Yeah.
Even at the bare minimum, because there's plenty of resources, and that's what, like, you having conversations with him, me and you having conversations, me, you, and Brian having conversations. Business, but then like we always kind of dive into the stock market too, but it's like also I think having conversation, because that's the whole point of the podcast as well, but like just the conversations about it's like that allows us to think about what the fuck we're saying, and then like, okay, what are we saying, and where have we gotten this like news or information, so that we can make justifiable like sentences, but then justifiable decisions for to get into the stock market and whatnot.
I guess I can bring up a little quick thing, like even with like the beauty about like using Robinhood too, is if things start slowing down, it kind of has like a little ticker feed at the bottom that gives you the world's top stories. So even though I guess because I look at it every day, I paid attention to it, but there were these other 2 companies, one in, I want to say one by the Middle East, and then one in Asia, that they had electric cars too. And because of their I guess it was of their approvals or their advancements within their product, it brought Tesla stock down. So like it's always also using these smartphone apps. Like I'm pretty sure even I don't know if Vanguard uses it, but there's like these plenty smart these investment apps that they give you the ticker feeds of what is also affecting your company, so you can add those other companies to your watch list, to where if you start noticing a trend on them that they're going up, it could probably affect yours, and maybe you should wait a little bit, or maybe put more money, because it's like, if I know these 2 companies are bringing this guy's stock market down, well, it's going to be lower, so I can put in more on these guys when this one's going to go up.
Yeah.
So
makes sense. I don't think if it does. I have, because there's definitely a Vanguard app, and I definitely have a watch list of my companies plus some other ones that I have like just in my head, like, okay, I might want to go in here later, but I don't have enough confidence right now. But I haven't seen anything like that's interesting. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool that you're able to see that, because that's helpful as fuck. Like that's at least for me, it sounds very helpful.
Because I mean, all I did was just add those 2 firms to my watch list. I kind of just read briefly the article, what's going on, what are they doing, and from there, most often than not, you can see if it's gonna affect your stock or affect what you have invested in. Like even with the when it was that whole deal with Microsoft and Oracle buying TikTok, they would have little sub articles at the bottom of each stock, to where the company, you would scroll down, you would pass by its 1 month, 1 week, 5 month graph that it would show you, and then it would show you the articles related to your stock. So anytime Oracle and Walmart are teaming up to buy TikTok, well, the article was there. And then there would be another article on the Microsoft app telling you, it's like, oh, these companies are trying to buy it. Microsoft is losing the battle, trying to buy this, trying to get this. And then you would see the relations of both stocks and how one affects the other because of the action. And then having those articles there help out, because it's always keeping you up to date of what's going on with it.
I think Yahoo Finance has that.
I think I've seen it on Yahoo Finance, because that's why I said in general, like these investment apps.
Some of the apps because mine, I like it because very like the app, because I use whenever I'm making it, because if you So Vanguard, if you're doing anything mobile, there's like a there's like a surcharge for doing mobile like trades and stuff like that. So whenever I'm ready to purchase, I do everything strictly like on my laptop on a I'll do it on a actual computer of some sort, right? I won't do it on my phone. But I have not seen anything about articles on even on the on like the website on a computer. But I've definitely seen that's something about that I probably need to start doing in general. Just whenever I'm looking to purchase, whether it's a new company or purchase more stock in the company that are in a company I already have, read those articles. I'm pretty sure I've seen it, but I'd never go into reading it because I mostly go in, see the trends, see what they're doing number wise, and I kind of get off, and then I go up. I kind of go about my day and whatever else I'm doing. But that's probably. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because that's probably something that I need to do, just for the sake of information. Just for the sake of information, because that I feel like you saying that like even gave me like, oh, like yeah, like that's good information to have when you're looking to purchase or when you're like, oh, hey, what's actually going on in the world, or even what's going on in the stock market world that could affect what I already have invested and whatnot.
Yeah, because I mean, like, well, think about it. We all get the news notifications on our phones now.
Yeah.
So anytime like these big newspapers, Wall Street Journal, Daily News, any kind of little thing, we're gonna get some notification on our phone. But the beauty about it is, it's like that that section of the app, it filters out the specific articles within either that newspaper or other newspapers that talk about your company and your company investment.
Right.
So let's say we can get a notification saying from the Wall Street Journal, president did this and this and this.
Yeah.
But okay, well, we know what that happened, but that's just a general big headline from the cover page of the newspaper. But if I go into the app, it's like, oh, Wall Street Journal. It's still the same newspaper from today, but it's like if but
JP Morgan.
Yeah, but it's
this and that.
It's the cliff notes of the whole thing. Instead of reading the whole, flipping over through the pages and going through it, it strictly takes you to the cliff notes of here is what you need to know about JP Morgan. Here's what you need to know about Tesla for today. And sometimes your phone won't give you those notifications, or you won't get that from your phone, but you can get it from the app.
That's super handy. I need to because I have like I said, I have a coworker that he uses Robinhood, but he's only been in the game for like 8 months, so like he's still learning. And we had a conversation actually yesterday about it, and it's like, okay, it was pretty quick. Me and you already planned this conversation, so we knew we're gonna talk. But I'm talking with him. I can give him like, hey, like if you're interested, like whenever you have some downtime, like you might want to do some of this reading because it would be beneficial when you want to purchase more, especially because in the stock market game, he's very young. He's very young in the stock market. He's like, hey, like, but with that youngness comes opportunity to actually like get ahead of the game. Cause that's something that I didn't know about, but you passing it on, then I can pass it on to him. It's like, hey, you can make this, your own and really like harness, some investments to be able to build your assets, have more assets, period.
Yeah. It's kind of like the jiu-jitsu world kind of thing to where it's like, oh, the white belt that's going on his first day is doing more than the guy that's sitting on the couch.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, just walking. Man, I would even say that whenever I was working at 9 Round, whereas like, hey, because sometimes the clients, they come in and they were like tired from work or they had a long day, maybe they didn't have work but they had a long day, or maybe they had a bad day. And it's like, hey, you walked in the door. That's usually the hardest thing to do. And I'll even argue that for myself now. Like, that's why, like, I've gained a little bit of weight. It's like I'm trying to work out again, but it's like the hardest thing is like literally just going and
the first day.
starting. Yeah, just getting into the door. In my case, you go outside because I have like areas around where I live where I can actually work out outside and stuff like that. So it's very convenient. But like again, going back to like just the principle of like, yeah, the hardest part is like walking in the door, getting on the mats. Getting started in the stock market, getting started is the hardest. It's literally the hardest part. Cool, man. I think we can stop. We can call the podcast there, and we can see what we dive into soon. There's some stuff. There's actually some stuff that I'll have to talk to you here in offline once we get off. But you have anything else you'd like to drop as far as like this podcast? We'll come back to conversations, but. Anything you feel in mind right now? That last minute thoughts, last minute thoughts, last minute like advice, last minute confidence booster, motivation.
The only one I can think is if you're thinking about doing it, just do it. I mean, it's better to have your money do something for you than for it to just be sitting down. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. If you're thinking about investing, just do it. You're not gonna learn. You're not gonna learn anything if it's just sitting there. So just go for it. Dive off the deep end.